Deion Sanders and Colorado have aspirations of competing at the highest level, but there's one thing holding them back. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Excuse me. Okay, let's dive right in. We're talking about what's holding Colorado back. By the way, Locked On Buffs brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every single day for free, wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's episode, we are talking about what's holding Colorado back. We know they started off the season strong, 3-0. They jumped all the way up to 18 in the country. And it was like, okay, I personally, maybe I got a little too invested in the hype. I was like, this is an 8 or 9 win team now. I think my first initial prediction of 6-6 feels, it still feels in the realm of possibility. They have a tough slate coming up where they will be playing, like this week, they're playing Oregon State. Then they host, I believe it's Arizona. Yeah, let's see. So, yes, they host Oregon State, they host Arizona, and then they're on the road for the final 2 weeks at Pullman, at Washington State, and then at Utah. And Pullman's a tough place to play. Utah's a tough place to play. And both of those games are late November, so could be some snow, which would be a first for a lot of these players. I think most of them are all out of Florida or Texas, so not a lot of snow down there in the Sunshine State. But either way, that's not what's holding them back. The snow's not what's holding them back. It is their mindset. It is the roster construction. And so after the game, and I think this kind of went overlooked because a lot of people were more focused on the robbery and that's a big thing to be focused on. But there's a few things that are holding, or one thing that's holding Coach Prime back and holding Colorado back. And he said this when talking to the media. Overall, we just don't have the fight and the passion to do what we want to do. And that's basically him talking about the guys on the team just not having the mindset that they need. And then he said, we're 7 to 10 players away from doing what we want to do in college football. Unlike many other first-year coach-led teams, there's a tremendous expectation for us. We would love to meet those expectations. We're close. We've done some wonderful things. You could see what we have and what we're building, and you could see the need. And so I think, obviously, it stands out that when he says that, one, you see what we need, that's directly at the offensive line. The offensive line, defense line, the 7 to 10 players, let's just say it's 10 for fun. That's 5 guys on the offensive line, 4 or 5 guys on the defense line. They are getting bullied every single game in the trenches. There's not a game that goes by where I watch the offensive line and I'm like, wow, they actually looked good today. Not a game that goes by where I look at that defense line and I'm like, they played an entire game where it didn't look like they were eventually getting pushed off the ball 5 yards down the field. And that's a big issue. And then also, when he talks about they don't have the passion or whatever it was that they need, I think it's it's a nicer way of saying when he says we don't have the fight and the passion. This is a team full of guys that aren't used to adversity at this level. Nobody in college football is used to adversity at this level. They were at the top of college football in terms of popularity. They weren't ranked number 1 or anything, but at the top, everything was going smoothly. Everything was going greatly. And then things started going wrong. And then social media starts hating on them. And so usually, like, some of these guys go to big programs, Florida State, Tennessee, Alabama. But not all these guys were key players at these programs. So a lot of these guys that are now in starting roles are not used to the criticism that they're facing. A lot of these guys are not used to the spotlight that they have. And so when everything's going great, it's really cool because it's like everybody's giving me attention. They're loving me. They're feeding me well, as Jamal Williams said. And then when things are going wrong, they're not feeding me well. They're not loving me, and it's a little awkward. And so I think the passion, and we've seen it, I think on 3 or 4 occasions this season, Coach Prime has kind of talked to these guys about their entitlement, their lack of fight, and just their overall expectation that this right here, college football, is kind of like what life is. And so I think these guys, I don't say they have an attitude problem because obviously I'm not in the day-to-day. We only see what we see on the well-off media videos, and I only hear what I hear from the people that are there. But I'm still fairly confident to say that there's some issues going on around the locker room where these guys maybe think that they deserve more or they're better than they are. And that kind of, once you develop an ego, you become your own biggest enemy because you are obviously kind of limiting yourself. And so I think their mindset is holding them back. I think their just overall popularity is holding them back. I think it's no fault of their own. They started off strong. They were winning games, and that's exactly what they're supposed to do. And I don't think there's any preparation for being the most watched team in college football and the most scrutinized team in college football. And so while coaches could tell you, hey, they're going to come after us. They're going to come after us hard. Like he did after the Stanford loss. Coach Prime goes, all that love you're receiving on social media, get ready for that to flip. Obviously, he says that. And obviously, they're like, okay, people are going to hate on us. But no one could expect that Colorado would probably go on a 2-week tour of just getting trashed just by everyone. And it's like you blew a 29-point lead. You guys are looking more and more like a team that has no business competing at the highest level right now. I think they will compete at the highest level. I think next year in the Big 12, they could probably make a Big 12 title appearance, which I'll talk to you about their Big 12 schedule in a little bit. But right now, this team is not where they need to be. And so I think Coach Prime is kind of hinting at that when he talks to the media that there's a lot of pressure on this team, which obviously he knew was going to happen. But it doesn't always mean that the players are ready for that to happen. And then also, I talked about this yesterday, but I don't feel like a lot of people are kind of grasping this. Even if, like Jordan Seaton right now, 5-star offensive tackle out of IMG, I think he's the top 25-ish, 26-ish player in the country. He is officially visiting Colorado or taking a visit to Colorado this weekend. And there's smoke around him coming to Colorado. That's great, but that's a freshman. You never know how good freshmen are going to be at the college level. And I think I did my whole first segment yesterday about how hard it's going to be to replace this offensive and defensive line, mostly the offensive line. You're not going to go into the portal and get 5 quality Power 5 stars. It's very rare that happens. We've seen, like Auburn, they took 3 out of the top 10. One of them was a backup, and then 2 of them, I think one of them was okay, and the other one was like ranked 300th at his position. Like there's no guarantee that the portal is going to be filled with guys that are just so good, but they're transferring. Like the transfer portal, for the most part, is about playing time. It is about getting more opportunities than what you have, and it's about getting to the NFL. So if these guys are transferring, more likely than not, they're transferring for the reason that they're not playing. Now, obviously, there's guys like Travis Hunter and Shadur who are transferring because they want to follow their coach. And same thing with Caleb Williams. But outside of those guys, that's 3 people. How many other people are there in the portal that are elite? Okay, let's go over. This is my criteria for portal players. Let's just think of this. They have to be elite. Okay, that's already hard in of itself. They have to want to play at Colorado, who isn't known for NIL makings right now. And then 2 or 3, excuse me, they have to be willing to come to Colorado. Like obviously, like they have to be wanting to go, because some of these guys that transfer, they go from an SEC school to a different SEC school, or they go to, like they want to stay in the SEC or whatever. And that's a lot of the guys that he's targeting. So do these guys have interest in coming to Colorado and playing the Big 12? If they're all 3, or if they're 2 out of 3, great. But if you're trying to find every transfer that's going to be 3 out of those 3, good luck. You're not going to find any. But yeah, I think the mindset's holding them back. And I think, like I said, the offense line's holding them back, but I think it's going to be difficult to replace all 4 or 5, however many guys they want to replace. And I think it has a lot to do with development. I think they need to focus on development, and I think that'll help solve their issues. Because if you just keep trying to filter in and out 5 linemen every single year, you're never going to have continuity, and it's just never going to kind of pan out in the way that you would hope. But nonetheless, that is the task at hand for Colorado. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $100, $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that include spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Okay, we are back, and we are talking about the Big 12. Obviously, it's been a while since we've chatted some Big 12, but here's the thing. we just saw, or we just it was just announced, excuse me, the Big 12 schedules, because obviously all these conferences are moving around and changing, and everybody's going to be in new places next year. So Colorado got their Big 12 schedule. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to kind of give you a rough estimation of what I think their record could be in the Big 12 next year, barring any, like, assuming Shedeur Sanders stays, assuming everybody stays and this team improves and they improve across the offensive line, whether it's development, transfer portal, recruiting, don't care. This is the assumption that Colorado is improving and will take a step from year 1 to year 2. This is how I see it. But let's talk about it. So home games, they get Baylor, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and then Utah. And then for road games, they will be heading to Arizona, Central Florida, Kansas, and Texas Tech. So let me just give you my quick breakdown first. Those two of those home or away games will be so crucial for Colorado. Texas Tech, which, I mean, Lubbock's not really Dallas or Austin by any means, but it's still Texas. And Central Florida down there in Orlando. Obviously, Coach Prime has talked about how he wants ties with these states. He wants guys out of Florida. He wants guys out of Texas. Players, recruits, seeing them play in Florida and Texas will do wonders. And also, he's going to play in Texas every year, probably, assuming that, because if they play Baylor at home next year, they're going to play Baylor on the road next year or the year after. So they're going to be in Texas every year. They're going to be in Florida every other year, and that's a good mix. So here's the thing. This is assuming that Colorado is able to improve and get the necessary players. So they're getting bigger on the trenches. They're getting bigger, better players. I think right now, Baylor's a struggling program. They might fire Dave Aranda. Cincinnati, struggling program. That's 2 wins right there. Oklahoma State, that's a tough game. Kansas State, tough game. Utah, tough game. I'll put those two, Kansas State and Oklahoma State, maybe Utah. I think they're going to return a lot of guys next year. I think it's going to be, I honestly think Utah might win the Big 12. If I had to bet right now on a team to win the Big 12 next year, it'd probably be Utah. Arizona, winnable game. They're probably going to be trending upward, though. They're a hot team right now, top 25, like adjacent. I think they're 26, 27. UCF, pretty tough. They should be able to beat them, though. Kansas, if they have Jalen Daniels, that's a tough one. Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech is winnable. So right now, if you ask me to guarantee wins right now, I'd go 1, 2, 3, which Baylor, Cincinnati. Oklahoma State has quarterback issues, so I'll go them as well. So we're at 3. Arizona and Texas Tech. So I think I see 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 to 6 conference wins. And this is just assuming, just looking at it from a year ahead. So we truly don't know. But this move for Colorado to the Big 12, it opens up an opportunity for Colorado to compete immediately. Because honestly, I think they could compete immediately in the Pac-12, like if it was to stick together. But all these programs in the Pac-12 are peaking right now, and Colorado's trying to peak. And so I think it'd be easier to work your way to the top in the Big 12. And Colorado had way more success in the Big 12 the first time around. So I think the Big 12 move is a much better move for them. It's a move that will make much more sense. And it's a move that kind of, I don't want to say eliminates them from, it kind of gives them an advantage recruiting wise, because there's obviously no other program in the Big 12 right now where I look at and I go, yeah, they have a brand that's close to Colorado's. Because no program in the Big 12, maybe Utah, but Utah's not coming after 4 and 5 star guys all the time. They have their niche. They get high 4 stars and 3 stars, and they just develop the hell out of them. Colorado's trying to go for these top recruits, and honestly, there's no program in the Big 12 that could keep up with them recruiting wise. Not a single one. You could say TCU maybe. TCU just had their best class ever last year, and I think Colorado's still ranked higher. It was like a couple spots low. I think Colorado was 21 and TCU was like 19 or something. So TCU had their best class ever, and they barely out recruited Colorado. Like, that's not going to get it done. Okay, they were 26th, composite ranking of 21, and let's look at Colorado. Colorado was 21. And Coach Prime was on the job for about 10, 15 minutes when he put together a top 25 recruiting class. So no one in this conference could stack up to them. This is, we'll just go Big 12 rankings right now, or where all these programs ranked. So this is programs that are currently going, well, not currently, programs that will be in the Big 12 next year, how they would rank out. Colorado 1, Utah 2, TCU 3, and then Arizona State 4, Texas Tech 5, Baylor 6, UCF 7, Kansas State 8. So, and those 5 teams were 35 through 39. So, no one is holding the water that Coach Prime could bring to the recruiting ranks. Like nobody's stacking up to him like that in the recruiting level. So they could realistically start running the Big 12 either by next year or the year after, depending on the recruiting class and the development. So big moves to the Big 12, exciting. Look out for the schedule. Plan your trips ahead, and get ready for some Colorado football, because I think right now the popularity in Colorado is through the roof. I think it's not as high as it was when they were winning, but when they start winning games again, everybody's going to be chatting about the Buffaloes, and I'll be right here every single day talking about them. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, and they have all sorts of vehicle necessities. They have superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Last discussion of the show, one that's really interesting to me. I think, and I've talked about this probably 10 or 12 times by now. Everybody wants to know where Coach Prime's going next. Where is he going to leave Colorado for? Which we don't know if he's going to leave Colorado. He seems like he loves it, so I don't expect him to leave Colorado for a while. And if everything goes right at Colorado and they give him free reign to do whatever he wants, which it kind of seems like they are in terms of transfer portal and stuff like that, and advertising his merch and shooting documentaries and all that stuff. If they continue to let him do that and he's happy in Boulder, why would he leave? But there's always like, oh, Texas A&M is going to open up. Oh, Miami's going to open up, or whatever, Clemson maybe. And it's like, we never know. But the latest suggestion is one which I've already said this multiple times. I don't think he's going to leave anytime soon. But if he were to leave, it would have to be a big college football job where they let him do whatever he wants. Texas A&M has one of the most, I don't say annoying boosters, but they have very passionate boosters who are very impactful, who are very decisive, and will have a lot of things to say. Whether Coach Prime meshes with that, doubt it. Miami, I don't know if Mario Cristobal's on the hot seat anymore. Maybe he gets another year, whatever it may be. Do they have the boosters that will let him kind of do whatever he wants? Probably not. So there's not really college jobs out there where I'm like, yeah, that's for sure one that they will let him do whatever, and that's one that he would want. And he's already talked about not wanting to go to the NFL, but this is the one way I could see him going to the NFL. And I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. It could happen, probably won't, because he says he has no interest in the NFL. But Matt Miller of ESPN proposed what he called an idea for chaos, or he said what was exact, because he roots for chaos. He says, if you guys didn't know this, because it was like a late night Halloween dump, the Las Vegas Raiders fired Josh McDaniels, their head coach. And so Matt Miller's suggestion, or his idea, was the Raiders hired Deion Sanders. Shedeur Sanders enters the drafts and refuses to play for anyone besides his father and becomes a team's franchise quarterback. How fun would that be? Well, that is interesting, because I think we already saw Coach Prime say if a team wants Shedeur, they have to take Shiloh. He told that to the Falcons scout. And what better way to make sure both your sons get drafted than being the head coach of that team? I don't think he would leave Colorado after a year or two. I think that would be genuinely shocking, and he would probably become like the biggest villain in college football history, maybe. But I did think it was interesting. I do think that we will see something interesting when Shedeur Sanders enters the draft. I do think there might be maybe a flex of the muscle by Coach Prime and the Sanders camp when Shedeur enters the draft, because he's a possible first-round pick. He's not going to go this year, according to Coach Prime himself, unless something changes. But if things change down the line and there's a certain team that Coach Prime doesn't want his son to play for, and there's a certain team that's hiring, I think that could be interesting. I think this would be the only way that Coach Prime leaves Colorado or college football for the NFL. But he's already said he's not interested in the NFL. I just thought this is an interesting thing. You comment below what you think would be the way to get Coach Prime to the NFL. Would this be a good start, or is this just hopeless shooting and for the Raiders and any other NFL team that tries it? Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers. Let's get there. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.